Hey guys, this is Sid from BreVITy, and today we'll be solving a very interesting LeetCode question, longest substring without repeating characters. So the problem statement is actually quite simple. We'll be given a string as an input, and our job is to find the length of the longest substring without repeating characters. So what is a substring? So substring is any string within a string. So in this input, this is the input string. ABC can be a substring of the bigger string, and AB can also be a substring. ABCAB can also be a substring. It can be any string within the string. So our job is to return the length of the maximum possible substring we can find in the string, which does not have any repeating characters. So I can take, for example, I can take the substring ABCA. So this is not a valid case because A is repeated twice. So we want a substring which does not have any character repetition. But on the other hand, ABC is a possible substring which does not have any repeating character. So in ABC, A is not repeated twice, B is not repeated more than once, C is not repeated more than once. So this could be the possible answer. And for this question, this is the answer. ABC is the answer. So we can just return the length of ABC, which is 3. Another possible answer is CAB, which is also another substring, but they just want the length of the longest substring, so we can just return the maximum possible length. So before watching the Python code implementation video, I'll highly suggest you check out this video on top where we explain the sliding window concept which goes behind solving this problem. It's right on top, guys. You can just check it. Meanwhile, I'll just keep waiting. So now let's try to implement this using Python. So the first step is to obviously initialize both the pointers, left pointer and the right pointer. So you can call the left pointer I, and I'm initializing to 0th index, and the right pointer j, which I'm also initializing to the 0th index. And we need a variable to keep track of the maximum length of the substring so far. So for that, we can use the variable mx, and we can initialize it to 0. And we need intermediate storage to keep track of the characters which is present inside the window and number of times it occurs in the window. So for that, we can use a hash map, or in Python, we actually call it dictionary. So we're going to use a special variation of a dictionary known as default dictionary. And we can default the value to integer. So what do you mean by defaulting a value to integer? So suppose the window has the character A and it repeats twice. So generally A is the key, and the value will be 2 because it repeats twice. So the value is basically refers to integer. So that's what I'm given here. It's an integer as a default. So now we can start our growing phase. So a growing phase is basically till j reaches the last index in the string. And for each each growing phase, we increment the j pointer by 1. And for every iteration, we add the new variable to our intermediate storage. So d of s of j. So the character j is pointing to, we can add it to our intermediate storage, so we can just increase its count by 1. So in default dictionary, the default count of all the characters is 0. So every time the j pointer gets incremented, we are adding the new character to the intermediate storage. And next we have to do is shrinking phase. So when do we do the shrinking phase? When the occurrence of a character is more than once. So while the occurrence of the character which we just added, which is d of s of j, is more than once, it means there's a duplicate, then we have to shrink it. So how do we shrink it? By increasing the I pointer by 1. So every time we increase the I pointer, we generally, what we have to do is decrease the occurrence of I pointer in the intermediate storage by 1. So by doing this, we kind of like shrinking the window and removing the excess characters in the window. And so while the growing and shrinking phase happens, we need a variable to keep track of the maximum length in each iteration. So for that, we're using the variable mx. So mx will be the max of the maximum length so far we had and the new length of the window, which is j minus I plus 1. And we can just return, this question just wants us to return the maximum length of the substring, so we can just return mx. and you can run this code. As you can see, this code runs, and it's actually a really efficient method of running. And there are currently no optimization we can actually do for this problem because we're using 2 pointers, so the time complexity is just O of n, and we're just using an extra dictionary to keep track of the characters and its occurrence in the window. So the time complexity of this code is O of n, and the space complexity is also O of n because we are using extra hash map. And there's no further optimization we can do. So thank you for watching.